Hello everyone, this is the mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today as I take a deeper look into the most recent episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 6, Episode 4. I will not be doing a full episode recap as there are plenty of other content creators who do an excellent job reviewing the show. Instead, I'm going to focus on specific segments of the episode that I believe could be used as teachable moments for myself and the audience. So this episode focuses primarily on the Scott's business affairs, in particular how Marsau treats Tisha as his wife and, his silent business partner. And it also focused on the Black Expo that Tisha and Marsau are planning. Marsau's new employee basically told him that he is stifling the growth of his marriage and his business by being overprotective of Tisha. Marsau has essentially turned Tisha into a sheep in a world of wolves by relegating her to breeding, cooking, and cleaning duties since the beginning of their marriage. And, there's nothing wrong with being a sheep for a certain period of time, but that should not be your permanent role, because if something were to happen to your spouse, you're going to be stuck and you're going to have to go back to work and learn how to become a wolf to survive without your spouse. So, treating your spouse like a sheep is crippling them and it's stifling their growth. And that's what Marsau's his employee was saying. So this is why I said in the past that I believe that Martell and Melody's success as business partners or business owners is largely attributed to Melody's killer instinct for business, which Martell does not have. But on the same token, I do think that the presence of Martell as Melody's husband in a male-dominated industry benefited Melody, because most men, or a lot of men in business, especially in male-dominated industries like construction, they don't want to believe that a woman's running the show. And a lot of men do not respect beautiful, intelligent women unless there's a man standing beside them. And this is one of the reasons why people thought that Martell had the builder's license instead of Melody, because Melody was his cover, and they assumed that because Martell was the man that he actually had the license and Melody did not. And this is why I also said that as Melody and Martell became more successful, Martell grew more aware of how inadequate he was when it came down to the logistics of actually running a business, and that made him feel very insecure. So he essentially sabotaged his life by having a long-term affair with Ariane. So anyway, after this discussion, or during the discussion with his employee, Marsau had an epiphany that him being controlling and pseudo-masculine was thwarting Tisha's growth, which was evidenced by her Black Expo presentation, which could have been a Zoom call, to be honest. I think she showed like 2 or 3 slides summarizing the event, but I'm not going to go too hard on her because I think that she's just getting her legs in this space as an entrepreneur business person, because again, Marsau kept her in the house for over a decade. But I will say this, Tisha has 2 graduate degrees, and I did not see evidence of her degrees in this presentation. She's still uncomfortable with public speaking, which is understandable, but I feel like more effort went into planning the presentation, like the outfit she was going to wear, renting the office space and the champagne, and sort of like the optics of running a business. I feel like more effort went into that than the actual planning of the event itself. And it appeared as if Tisha was depending on the rest of the cast to develop her idea without wanting to compensate them for their time, their energy, and their resources. Melody and Kimmy had excellent questions about logistics, marketing, objectives, budgets, etc. And they did so in a way that wasn't offensive or it wasn't dismissive of her, but it was informative. Like, she was learning from their questionings. And I agree with Kimmy. It seemed like Tisha was trying to repurpose the comeback group without actually calling it that for legal or financial reasons. So the way that Tisha presented this, it seems as if the cast, who would not be remunerated for their time and they wouldn't benefit from attending this event, only Tisha and Marsau would benefit, and maybe a few businesses who wanted to promote themselves and their services, I guess, they would benefit. But without a budget breakdown, to be honest, the event runs the risk of being janky and bootleg. And the other cast members have brands that they are trying to maintain and protect themselves. If Tisha wants the cast to volunteer their time, there has to be other tangible benefits for attending the expo besides helping Tisha to establish a new business venture, which I think is unfair. Okay, I understand that volunteering is a good thing, but most people that I know would rather volunteer their time to help people in need, the homeless, children, animals, not successful business entrepreneurs like Tisha and Marsau. And it seems like they're trying to exploit the rest of the cast. Okay, so just because they're so-called friends and family and they're cool again, it doesn't mean that, you know, their time is any less valuable, especially since Tisha and Marsau are running million-dollar companies, right? That's what they said. So if you're running million-dollar companies, you would have no problem taking an L, compensating the cast members for their time to get this expo off the ground, right? So yeah, if there's no budget for the event, more than likely the growth trajectory will be limited, or again, the cast would not benefit. Like, it just, I don't know why they would do this other than to do her a favor. And at this point, the show is in the 6th season, so it's not like the cast members need publicity or promotion. They don't. I'm sure that most of Huntsville knows about the cast by now, or the show. And I feel like Tisha and Marsau were low-key trying to position themselves as the face of the comeback group, and they wanted to use the cast as their personal network to boost the popularity of the event, which is why there was no consideration for marketing, because they were assuming that the cast members would use their social media to promote Tisha's event, which again is not fair. And so I want you to use your social equity and your platforms and your celebrity to promote your event for free, and I essentially wouldn't benefit at all. That's bad business. That is bad business. That is ridiculous, and it's exploitative. Like, ain't nobody doing that. You have to respect people's time. To make matters worse, it seems as if, you know, it sounded like what Tisha was saying is that if they got sponsorships, right? They got a couple $100,000, I don't know, from car companies or liquor companies or whatever. The funds from that those sponsorships would not be divided equally among the cast members, even though the cast will be bringing more attention to the event. It would just go to Marsau and Tisha. That's not fair. It's not. So if you're an entrepreneur professional, more than likely, you would rather spend your free time attending events that will increase your chances of making more money. Whether it's conferences, seminars, workshops, expos, going back to school. Like, you're not going to show up as a favor to benefit someone else's business without being adequately compensated, either socially by networking or financially with money, right? So I feel like Tisha and Marsau wanted the cast to do walkthroughs like they were at a club, and if that's the case, then pay them. Okay? And you know, what's interesting is that Marsau didn't seem to have it together either. Even though I appreciate the fact that he supported Tisha, but he knows better. And I think that's why he was smiling and cracking jokes. Like, Martell was smirking too, because he knew they were trying to pull one over on them. They were trying to use the cast without paying them, which is janky business and low-key disrespectful. Renting out a conference room and putting on a business suit and throwing together a PowerPoint presentation is not business planning. And Marsau knows this. I'm confident that he knows this because he supposedly bids for construction contracts all the time. I low-key think that Marsau wanted Tisha to fail. Like that episode of Martin when Gina thought she could host his radio show, and then right as the show went on air, Martin left the room, and Tisha Campbell, Martin, and Gina was left by herself, and she got disrespected by, you know, his audience, and Martin had to come back and, you know, defend her, right? So I think that Marsau wanted Tisha to fail, but by failing, Tisha proved that Marsau's co-worker was right. Tisha needs time to grow into her own, and that comes with time and experience. And again, Marsau stifled her development as a professional, which is why Tisha was supposedly under Melody's mentorship or tutelage before they had a falling out. If you guys remember in season 1, Melody was basically trying to mentor Tisha into becoming an entrepreneur, and then it got janky and wonky and nasty because of the divorce. But yeah, that's all I had to say about this episode. It's pretty short. Nothing too eventful happened except, they continued their discussion in the spa. Melody left the spa early because it was a waste of energy to argue about nonsense when you're trying to have peace. I felt like Kiki was being attacked because the cast didn't want to say nothing to Melody for inviting her to the party in the first place. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like, why are they jumping down her throat instead of asking Melody why she invited her? I'm not saying Melody didn't have the right to invite her, but I think that it was very convenient for Kiki to be attacked or to be confronted about this, the way she handled things. Very interesting. I'm going to make this commentary a short one today. I'm working on my soul ties commentary, which will be at least 2 parts. That's a very interesting and deep topic, especially now in retrograde season with the full moon eclipse in Scorpio coming up in a couple days. But anyway, thanks for listening. I look forward to reading your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.